This is cool, man. I can't. We should have met. Like, we should have been hanging out years and years and years ago. You know how? Do you know how we actually did get connected? It was when Strange Donut, because I knew who you guys were, but you guys at some point started talking about Bitcoin.
Yes.
And so I got super into Bitcoin, and I wrote some articles about it, and I put out some stuff, and CNBC ran an article that I wrote about, Warren Buffett is wrong on Bitcoin.
Yes.
And then you guys said, we are going to sell donuts with Bitcoin.
Right.
And then me and my buddy Rob Long showed up at your donut shop just randomly on a Saturday morning. And to your employees' credits, like, they didn't know anything at all about Bitcoin, but they sat at that register checking other people out, making everything else until we were able to buy a donut with Bitcoin. And it was awesome, man. It was like one of the first things I'd ever bought. It was the second thing I ever bought with Bitcoin. And we were like, it's really happening. The future of digital distributed currencies is really happening.
What do you think about it now?
Well, I had a guy on for a podcast that's going to air tomorrow. So it already aired by the time we're on. That he does not think it's going to work out, but I think he had some good points. It's really difficult to have the benefits of having a decentralized currency where everyone keeps a ledger, but there are downsides in that it's not easy to use and it takes a long time to transact. It can take 10 minutes for the payments to clear. But I'm a hodler. I bought Bitcoin a long time ago. I made Bitcoin. I had some clients pay me in Bitcoin, and then I just have them stored away, and I think if it works, great, and if it doesn't work, it was it easily paid for itself in the amount of great conversations I've gotten to have because of it.
I'll think about, the people, like, to your point, the people that are going to the gym trying to improve themselves, the people in that like Bitcoin community that are like trying to get hyped about it are people that are pushing the envelope in other areas of their life. Oh, that's a great point.
Right? Yeah.
Like, there's a big rush of people that are like, oh, I'm buying and selling Bitcoin and all this crap after they see it come. But really, early on when we started doing that at Strange Donuts, dude, we got contacted. Like, we're in like a news week or something in Berlin, right? Like, donut shop and blah, blah, blah. That's my horrible German accent, dude. But the, selling Bitcoin, we had like Bitcoin rallies, and all the people, dude, were like young, energetic, optimistic people.
And applying, this is the thing, like, there were people, when I would go to some of the nicer places in St. Louis and I would talk with like the older, more established people, they'd be like, I don't get the Bitcoin. And they gave themselves permission to sound like idiots because they did not know what they were talking about. But in order to feel confident and secure and above the guy that, like me, I was just starting out, I didn't really know, they would be like, that's just such a piddly little thing. And like, did I make millions off of it? No, but I did pretty well. And frankly, like, if you didn't do it, you missed out on years and years and years of thinking about money in a different way, about meeting these people that are figuring out how to make mining rigs in their basement and thinking about where does energy get produced and the quality of our current system. Like, it was great. So to me, I hope that as I get older, I don't hit that point where I say like, I know that those ideas are dumb. How do you keep yourself from becoming that? Where you feel safe by blowing off all the new ideas?
Ain't it crazy, dude? They're like, it's buggy whip. I'm gonna keep making these buggy whips. And like you old fat ass rich guy, like, and again, dude, I love rich people. I hope my kids are rich kids. You know what I mean? I grew up like hating rich kids, and I'm like walking the other night being like, man, you know what? Actually, like, I hope my kids are rich. And like the things that I thought were bad about rich people really aren't. Like, that was just my prejudice. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of these people are great dudes, but like that guy, you know what I mean, that you're meeting at Napoli or whatever to talk about Bitcoin or whatever, or wherever it's happened to be going down. Like, I went to some of those things, like your investment things. And I'm like, what are you doing with your time instead? Like, are you like reinforcing the stuff that you already think?
Right. Yeah,
man, that sucks.
So maybe that's a great place to go. Is where do you get your news and ideas now? Like, how are you making sure you aren't just shoved into a corner?
Man, I ask all the time and I question all the time. Like, one, in our business, what are we doing right? Okay, I'll give you like, here's something, dude, that kind of screwed me. And I also have a furniture company. It's called BT Furnishings. We sell, institutional furnishings all over the United States. Okay. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I've done it for 10 years.
I didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah.
So at one point it was like a big company, right? Like not big, it's a decent sized company. It's still a good sized company. Right. And so here's what happened. So I made connections in China. We're getting furniture and stuff from China. There was a strike on some boats, and when some of my stuff got held up in LA one time, right? So we have like containers and containers of furniture. I needed to land July 30th because I have to install it, before August 11th when the students come back. It's getting held up. Finally, my stuff gets freed up, and the manufacturer says, hey, that 50% that you owe us when it hits, instead of being 100,000 now, is 225. Because they, and I was like, well, screw you, keep it. Right. And like, oh, whoa, and I'm like, they're like 100, it's fine. I'm like, well, now it's 90 because I already found another supplier. You know what I mean? Like, screw you. But at that time I was like, I'm never importing anything again. Right. So we find suppliers in the United States. We manufacture our case goods in Indiana. And we get our leather goods from Chino, California. We manufacture mattresses in Iowa, right? We recycle our mattresses in Chicago. And a lot of these places, like success or like rigged success, rigged success breeds laziness, right? Like if I know I know that I can charge them whatever, and they're going to buy it because they're hooked in this deal and because I've given them so many lunches or Cardinals tickets or whatever it is, right? And I'm speaking very broadly, you know what I mean? I don't engage in any of that stuff like, pay to play or anything like that. But in a sense, every salesman does, right? I'll just speak clearly about that. Like, well,
sales are about relationships,
right.
And that you're not a stranger to that idea.
Right. So we start getting beat. Let's just say there's like a $500,000 contract, right? My lumber costs on that is about $300,000, right? My per truck, I pay, between $1,800 to $2,500 for that to get from Indiana to wherever it's going in the country, right? I got to pay people to install that furniture, right? I got to pay some holding costs on some of that furniture. I have to pay financing for that furniture. At the end of the day, let's just say that my bid is $500,000, okay? We start getting hammered, dude, by our competition, where we were just crushing all over the United States. And I start losing these $500,000 jobs by $200,000, and it's like $300,000 installed and delivered. And I'm like, I'm $500,000 and I have to add install and delivery on top of that, right? So we bring all the labor back in house, and I'm like, okay, well, we're going to handle all the labor. We're not going to mark up any of our stuff. So now we're making, a smaller and smaller margin. And I'm like, man, what the hell is happening? And we had it written into a lot of these contracts that they needed to be, domestic products and a lot, do like carbon footprint stuff, right? Like my stuff is made here. We use our excess lumber to heat the warehouse. Literally we do. All right.
Wow.
So like there's no, in the summer, all these doors open, the breeze comes through, there's fans, there's no air conditioning, right? And it's workable. It's good. In the winter, you have all this excess wood that's shortcut or dust, and you put it in a furnace and it heats the warehouse, right? So like we're LEED certified, all this stuff. No one really gives a shit about that, right? Like when
they want his price.
When it comes down to it, dude, if they can buy it for $300,000, they're not paying $5,000 for it. And I'm like, I was so ignorant to that. There was this product called rubber wood. Right. So rubber wood, I'm like, rubber, come on. What are you doing with rubber wood? Like we got American oak, And so I poo-pooed this rubber wood for a long time, for a couple of years, dude. And I don't know how much money it costs me, right? Like a lot of money, because I'm like, oh, these people will like that product is going to fail. You know what I mean? This year or next year. And they're going to come back and I'm going to say, see, I told you, you should have been going with us the whole time. American made, blah, 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 blah. Turns out, man. So I thought tariffs were going to help us, right? So I relied on some tariffs. I was like, man, if their stuff is costing 27% more, then that more than makes up for our margin. I'm like, stay on this American oak. Turns out, dude, Michelin owns a big part of Vietnam, right? There's all these rubber wood forests. Now tires are made from synthetic rubber. They don't need rubber wood trees.
They need to find another use for rubber.
They need another use for rubber wood. Rubber wood grows, I don't remember, I'm sure somebody will look it up, like 20, 50 times faster.
Oh, you mean actual rubber trees the cut them down, use that for the lumber.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, bro. So,
what's that like?
So here's all this, tens of thousands of acres of rubber wood trees, rubber trees that,
and they're probably really good at growing used. Them. Yeah.
And they're everywhere. So, that's why it's so cheap. So I'm going to Vietnam, right? Is a short answer. But like, I got fat and comfortable, being like sitting on my morals, really, like American owned, American farmed, American made oak, and I got so focused on that and like our superiority that I got blindsided, by a product that on its face sounds inferior, rubber wood. Right?
So what would you do differently now?
Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. What do you know now that would keep you from being blindsided by rubber wood next time?
Question everything. You think you're good? Check why. You know what I mean? I do that on all of our products now. I mean, everything that we manufacture, and it's not just, how much does it cost? But I negotiate, and I'll tell you, like anybody listening to this podcast, you probably already know this. You're probably already successful and smart. And a thing that'll like save you more money than any college, or like make you more money or save you more money, is 5 words. And I think like a lot of people are afraid of negotiation, but it's 5 words. Can you do any better? Right? Like you don't need to know much more about negotiation than that. Like that'll like give you a good start. And like if you just have the balls to say, can you do any better? Right? So like I'm going back to like our lumber suppliers being like, man, come on, lumber, what's going on here? You don't want my business? So I'm just like going back to the same well instead of like taking a more broad. I should have known if I was a true student of the industry. Man, there's tens of thousands of acres of this wood that has no other use anymore. Maybe I can do something with that wood. Maybe I should have been in Vietnam 5 years ago. 10 years ago. If I was a true student, of it. So shame on me. So what I do now, people want vegan donuts. Yeah, let me see how I can make those for you. Oh, people want to pay with Bitcoin. Let me see how I can do that for you. Let me go learn about that, and instead of like following trends, try to set them, and that's hard to do. But people, imagine like you're so hyped about Bitcoin, right? And if I am like, yeah, dude, I'll take that, like
now
why would you
tell everybody?
Why would you go? Yeah, you're going to write about us,
right?
100%. You're going to be on the news. So that's what I try to do now is question everything. You think you're good. And maybe that's why I'm not satisfied, because I look at stuff now and I'm like, man, that was cool. How could we have done better?
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. The rest of the interview is on my page, or you can listen to the audio version at the Vance Crowe Podcast.